Hey guys, so I wanted to go through my daily plumbing tool bag. This is the thing I take into the jobs with me, or sometimes I'll just leave it in the van and take stuff out of it if I need to. But I use this as opposed to the pack out system, just because everybody knows when you're doing new construction, the elevators aren't working, or you got to go to the 5th floor and carry all your stuff up. So it's nice to have something a little more portable and light and not so bulky. So this is what I take into the job usually. So getting into everything. Milwaukee Surge 1/4 inch impact. All the tool brands that I've owned, I've started out with Rigid Tools, and then I went to Dewalt, and then Milwaukee. And out of the three, this is definitely the best made. And then they have all the options that I need personally for the trade that I'm in. So I definitely am glad that I switched to Milwaukee. Extra battery. My Deluge smooth face hammer. This thing has been through a lot, as you can see, and it's been a pretty great hammer. The way it feels with the curved bottom, just the thickness of the handle, it's pretty nice. My grading level, this is 12 inches. It's got the grade marks in there, 1/8, 1/4, 3/8, half. Plumbing, you usually use 1/4 inch grade per foot, sometimes 1/8 with the bigger stuff. So that's really nice. I usually keep this in my pants pocket, as well as my razor knife and a small flashlight every day. This is a sink strainer wrench. It also works for shower strainers in the shower pan. And then the bottom of this I use to tighten the plugs you put in for cleanouts, mostly the 2 inch or 1.5 inch. I'll stick that in the flush plug for the cleanout covers and tighten that in. Seems just a little easier that way. Got these nail strikes from Bosch. Got these from Lowe's. These are pretty sweet for drilling through anything with a lot of nails in it. The spade bits are thicker, so you can use a grinder and sharpen those up after drilling through some nails. And they last quite a long time. I've done a lot of nail drilling with these guys, and they're pretty cheap for the whole set. I think it's like $30, but it's definitely a lifesaver when you need it. Go over here, Milwaukee double-edged knife, flat on one side, serrated on the other. I use this for all my insulation on the pipes. Works really well. I prefer the serrated edge personally. The bone saw, get these from the supply house. The Jones Stevens is the better blade. They sell the Pasco ones, which kind of suck, but this is definitely the way to go for any PVC cutting. So for Pex Crimpers, it's always better to go for the more expensive ones. Any of the good ones are $100 a pair. About the cheaper ones on Amazon or eBay are not worth the money for $20. If you start crimping things and they're not crimped right, you know, that's how floods happen, and you'll be kicking yourself $10,000 down the road. Then I got my 3/4 inch pair and the 1 inch pair. The 1 inch pair comes with the tension lever, so you can crimp it first with the easy setting, and then you just push this further up. I usually do middle and then all the way, just to make it easier. Sometimes I'll just do the easy one and then the full blast, but it just depends on what's going on. Soft copper benders. These ones are really nice, the Imperial brand. The handle over here, you can pull this down and you can have the handle go out to make it easier to bend in tight places or different situations. Then we got the speed square. Just keep that in there just in case. Rigid pipe cutters. Personally, I like the rigid the best, but a lot of people like the reeds. I personally don't, but that's okay. These are the 3.5s. I'll use these for all my smaller stuff, like 1.5, 2-inch, sometimes 3. And then I also have the 4-inch pipe cutters that I'll use for 3 and 4. And then I have the 6 and 5/8 for the bigger stuff. But I use the rigid pipe straps, like it's the pipe strap handle, I guess is a better word for it, to hold the big stuff so it doesn't spin as you're cutting it, saving your wrists and your hands. But a lot of people will use the Sawzall with the metal blade to cut the big stuff, but that stuff gets crooked and doesn't fit in the fittings right, and then you got leaks and problems. So it's always better to get a nice straight cut with a cutter as opposed to the Sawzall, but if you're in a pinch, that'll work too. Tape measure holster, save your pants from ripping. Got a bunch of pants that are just destroyed from the tape, so these are handy. Tape measure. This is the daily tape measure, 25-foot stud. I like the way it feels in your hand. You got a nice like rounded bulge on it. Fits good in the palm of your hand, doesn't slip. The tape's nice. It's like a nylon or something, so it doesn't rust if it gets wet. And then, so these bits are just like tile and glass bits. I think they're carbide tipped for setting like handles in the bathroom and stuff, or like spray bars, spray heads with the bar, slider bar for handicap stuff. Those work really well. And then I keep these universal sockets. This is the larger one in my bag just in case. And then the smaller one. So there's 2 different sizes. And then got a 12-inch light up level for doing groundwork or in dark, tight spaces. Comes in handy every now and then. And dog bone for holding on to the sink strainers so they don't spin while you're tightening them. Sometimes you can get it to fit in the tub strainer as well. And then this guy, so I use this, I guess we should probably talk about this first. So this is just a 3/4 inch galvanized coupling with a bushing and a quick connect for an air hose. So I'll put this on the hot side of the water heater with the cold side valve closed so that I can hook up an air compressor and blow the water out when I'm doing a swap. If the water heater does not have a shutoff for the cold, you can put one of these on to keep the air from going into the house system. You can drain a water heater in about half an hour or so with a 50-gallon water heater with one of these and a small air compressor. And then just a pair of pliers. I'm having a brain fart right now. Yeah. Vice grips. This is just a 10-inch pipe wrench, aluminum. Use these mostly for water heaters, doing expansion tanks, and hooking that kind of stuff up. But I have the bigger ones in our van. It's too big and heavy to carry. Rigid internal pipe wrench. These are really nice for stuck or used tub strainers. You can just pop this in there and get it to pop without having to hacksaw it off or anything like that, because they get corroded and they don't want to unthread. And then you can flip this die around to use the other side if you need the bigger sizes. nut and ferrule puller. So when you're doing compression stops, this is what you need to pull the ferrule off. You can just leave the nut and ferrule on and just replace the stop. And if you need to pull it all off and put something new on, you need to cut that copper off that had the ferrule on it, because once you compress the copper, it's not going to be the same size. So a new compression stop won't hold it, or it'll leak. And if you use a push stop, it'll leak also, because the copper is now smaller in diameter as opposed to the original size. So you'd need to cut it back or do something in order to make that work. But just replacing the front part of that stop is probably the way to go, and just leave the old stuff on. Got this handle. This holds Sawzall blades. You can take them in and out. There's nothing in there right now, but it just folds down. And then we have Allen wrenches. These are standard. I also have the metric size with the rounded ends. A Moen cartridge puller for shower valves. These will save your butt, help you not break anything inside the wall. Sometimes, or a lot of times, most times, shower cartridges get stuck, and trying to pull them out with pliers is just a pain in the butt. So this is a good way to go. Screw it in to the cartridge where the handle screws in, and then just slowly pull it out. And then a Torx bit set. These aren't the greatest because of the handle limitations, but they're not bad. They have the locking positions, which is nice. Instead of using a regular stud finder, this is just a magnet that has the level built into it. This just finds the screws in the studs so that you can find the stud that the screws are in, instead of messing around with a regular stud finder, because they tend to lie to you quite often. So these are faster and easier to use. And then a cat's paw. So this guy I got from Home Depot. It's a demo chisel. It's got the full tang with the metal backing for hammering and chiseling and demoing. It's also got a square shaft for putting crescents on or twisting it out or whatever. This thing has saved my butt more than once. Definitely worth the 15 bucks. So this is a sink clip screwdriver. It's got the flat tip in there for the clips for the sink, and then it's got the barrel around it that keeps the screw head on the screwdriver, so you're not slipping around. And it's also got the longer shaft so that you can have an easier time getting to the screws for the clips. And that is definitely worth every dollar. If you've ever tried to fight putting clips on underneath the sink in the dark, that's the way to go. And this is just a regular Phillips with the longer shaft for working on faucets and stuff under a sink. Definitely the way to go. And then I got some insulated screwdrivers. It's always nice when you're doing element exchanges on electric water heaters or anything really. It's just better to have something that's insulated. Then also another Phillips with this just holds the screw. Let's see if I can get it to move. So you put the screw in there, and this will hold the screw on the screwdriver, which is nice for one-handed stuff. And then this guy is just basically a nut driver with different bits. So it's got all different bits on the inside of the handle that you can pull off and put on the other side. And then we got the Milwaukee Pumps. These work really well. I really like the style and setup. Teeth are nice and sharp, so they get into there. And then, so those were the 12s. This is the 10. And I also have another set of 10s and a pair of the 8s. Then these are the Nypex Comfort Grip. So these are basically just Crescent wrenches, but with the quick adjust. So when you're going around a nut, you can open up the handle, but it'll still be the same size when you close them up, which is really nice. And the Comfort Grip is way better than the original. So got those. They're a little more spendy, but they're definitely worth the money. This is the Klein 11-in-1 screwdriver. They have these at Home Depot in the plumbing tool section where they have all the plumbing wrenches and stuff. These ones have a Schrader valve tool bit on the inside. And, you know, when you're doing gauges and testing and stuff, if you have a loose Schrader, that'll leak overnight and then you end up failing in your inspection. So those are nice to have. Especially on a screwdriver, you can use it for other stuff too. So those other Nypexes were 10 inches, and these are 5s, and these are the regular handles. So the other ones were a little beefier, comfier. These ones I use for shower heads because they have the 3/16 jaws. They're a little easier to get in there because they don't really give you a whole lot of meat to grab onto with the shower head. So I use these pretty much for only that, and they work pretty well. And the other thing with working with finished stuff, you know, you have to use smooth jaw, otherwise it mars up the finished surface, and that sucks. Then we got speed wrenches. There's 4 different sizes on either side, or 2 on either side. Got these at Home Depot. They're like 25 bucks for the pair. I use the smaller one more often, the 1/2 inch size for toilet bolts. That works really well. And then the 1/2 inch nut driver. I use this for the American Standard toilets that have the 3-bolt tank. For whatever reason, they don't come with one of the plastic tools to tighten the bolts, like one of these, and or one of these. I think these are Kohler. But then we got the 7-inch monkey wrench. These are really nice for spuds or whatever you need, like valves and stuff. I have the 11-inch version of this, same wrench, same style, but yeah, I use this one quite a bit. And then different sizes of crescent wrenches. I have some curved head Craftsman, and then the jaw can also pop out and flip around, and you can use this serrated edge, which is pretty nice. And I have a smaller size of this same style of wrench. And then up here, so this is an extension for the quick lock size. So I think it's 7/16. Has 2 Allens you can lock onto. So you can use, I don't know, the pipe reamer with this tool, which is nice. This is the Milwaukee version of that same thing, but it does not have the quick lock end on this end, and it also does not fit the quick lock on this end. It says it's the same size, but it does not fit. So, and then I have 2 1/4-inch impact extensions. Both the ends broke off of these, so I just use them in my chuck drill now. And then I also have 2 flexible 1/4-inch nut driver extensions as well, which are pretty nice. And then these extra long needle nose pliers. So when you're doing floor drains or anything in the ground, when you're testing groundwork, you have to have the inside plugs. So you break out around most of it, So I leave the tab side stuck to the pipe, and I break out everything else, and then I'll use these long pliers to go in there and pull out the plug with the tab, so it doesn't go down the drain. A lot of people will break them out and just let it go into the pipe, but we pulled them out so you don't have any problems down the road. This is a rigid one-stop wrench. So the ends, let me see if I can do this one-handed. Oh. So there we go. Let's see if I can get this undone. So this is the large end. You can hold the larger nut and ferrule side with this end, and then you can also use this end to put into a shower head and use this to tighten the shower head arm into the wall. Works really well. Or you can use the smaller one. Sometimes the cheaper shower heads have a smaller inner diameter, so you can use the smaller one. And then, but these are made for stops, like water stops for toilets and sinks. So the smaller end right here goes inside where the water hose connects to like the toilet or whatever. And you use this to hold while you use the larger wrench to tighten the nut onto the stop. Yeah, these are pretty useful. And then the smaller one will tighten the supply line to the toilet or the sink because it is the size. And then we have a small hacksaw. Use this mostly for toilet bolts, just shortening them up so you can get the caps on. Works really well. Some people use grinders because they're lazy, but I refuse to do that, so there's that. In the pouch, I got my clear safety glasses. I also have a Milwaukee stick light for some smaller stuff. And then I have these Dewalt radios. These are nice for doing large jobs. When you're wandering around needing stuff, asking people so you don't have to run multiple floors to go find stuff or see where people are at. Also very important for turning the water on for the first time. You know, somebody forgets to crimp something. It's always nice to be able to say, hey, shut the water off right now. It's always a running joke in our group, just shut the water off anytime somebody's walking around the corner. So there's those. Here's the smaller 4.5-inch speed square with my construction calculator. These are really nice to have when doing plumbing or any construction work. Sometimes your brain just can't do it alone. So on the side, I carry this carabiner with 2 pieces of copper. One's 2 inches, one's 1.5 inches. I use these to measure my water stops under the sink and toilet, so I can just hold one of these up to cut instead of using a tape measure for everything. It just makes things easier and faster. And then I have tin snips, and then a couple different plastic things that come with different faucets and stuff, toilets. And then I also carry my blue tape, my gray tape, and the gray tape's really nice for anything that's going to be showing, like shower heads, you know, stuff like that, so it doesn't have the ugly blue stuff. And then I always carry electrical tape just because it's always the best fixing things or whatever you need. So down here I carry my oil filter wrench. You can use these for tightening up sink strainers or, you know, different uses. Got my Pex Cutters, the Milwaukee ones I prefer. I started out with the rigid ones that they sell at Home Depot with the aluminum body. I think is aluminum. But those ones only do 3/4. These ones will do 1 inch. And they have the point on the blade that makes cutting the pegs way easier. And the blade also is pretty cheap to replace. The rigid one, I noticed, it was basically the same price to replace the blade as it was to just buy new cutters. So I just bought new cutters and bought Milwaukee. So these are Shark Bite brand Pex ring cutters. These ones are really nice. They sell the Apollo brand at Home Depot of the Pex ring cutters, but those ones suck because they'll leave an indent on your fitting, and if you have an indent on your fitting, it's more likely to leak water through that indent. So these ones are the way to go. Carry just I think a 1 inch, 1.5 inch scraper for cleaning off the wax rings on the toilet flanges. So that's always good to have. You don't get it all over your gloves. This is a 60-pound, 5/16 inch T-torquer. These ones are really nice. It has the locking mechanism for untightening, and then you can just tighten it up. This one's for most bands, the no hubs or gem caps, anything like that. And then we have the larger ones. This is an 80-pound, 3/8. These are for the husky bands or anything cast iron. We'll use the larger size. Then I got this guy. This is nice for doing like tub drains sometimes, or different other little things that you can find uses for. So these are my Impact to Wobbly socket extensions. These come in handy every now and then. And then this is an inside pipe cutter that hooks to your drill. So if you have to put anything below ground, this is the way to do it, usually. They also sell like a rigid inner pipe cutter that I have that I'll do in a different video. That works pretty well for doing like toilets and stuff, but this works for certain things. 1/4 inch impact extension. So this guy, when you're doing remodel work and you're undoing the toilet bolts and the whole bolts and everything just spins, you can jam this on the bolt because you can kind of see the little teeth on the right side. This will lock the bolt into place, and then you can get the nut off, so you're not ripping up the whole flange and all that stuff. So this works pretty well. And then just a pair of dikes, because you never know. So down here I have an electric tester for doing water heater elements or water heater swap outs for electric. Just a spiral, I think 1 inch bit. And then these are the 1 3/8 water bits that we use for most things. I prefer the Milwaukee switchblade Forstner bits, but these aren't too bad. I think this one's pretty burnt though. And then I have the Dewalt bit case. So on one side, I have some hammer drill bits for like Tapcons and stuff. I have 2 different sets of countersink bits. These, I don't really use these for plumbing though, but you can for like tubs and stuff. And then nut driver, like magnetic nut driver bits. And then on this side, it's all like Torx bits, flat tips, square bits, some cabinet screw bits in there, Phillips, some extensions and adapters to go to socket sets. And then this little guy is pretty nice. They sell these at Home Depot in the same place that they sell the 11-in-1 screwdriver with the Schrader valve. 1/4 inch, 5/16. This little bit on the end just flips over. If I can do this one-handed. Nope. But it'll just flip over and you can use 1/4 inch instead of 5/16, which is pretty nice. So, and it's fairly cheap. So some Sawzall blades, different lengths. So I keep this in here. This is 1/2 inch and 3/4. This little black plate on the top will move up when you move this little handle over. But I have all my other copper cutters. I do have the electric Milwaukee copper cutter, which is pretty sweet. But I'll do the soldering bag in another video. But I have this in here just in case. And one of the Pasco crappy blades, just in case. And then one of the replacement blades for the Pex Cutters. And then this guy is a punch. It has a spring mechanism inside. So when you're trying to locate holes, you can leave an indent in things so you know where to put the bit when you're drilling, which is nice. Instead of trying to get a marker or whatever in there. So I do have the impact version of the right angle for the impact. This works pretty well. It's not for like anything super heavy duty, but to get into a corner in a pinch. I do have these Dewalt Nut Drivers. These are pretty cool because it'll slide up and it should rotate. Yeah, there we go. So you can go at an angle instead of full on, and then it just locks and slides down. So it works pretty well. I have a couple different sizes of those, and then just a air valve filler upper. So for outside water, sometimes you just need to get in. Has 4 different sizes, so that will always get the water on. And then this guy, it's kind of like a 45-degree angle instead of the right angle. It works pretty well, pretty heavy duty. Just goes straight into 45. And then here are the other sizes. And I always leave a couple toilet shims in there. You can rip them down the middle, shove them under the toilet to keep it from wobbling, and then just use a razor knife and cut off the extras. So it's always nice to have some of those in there instead of trying to shove cardboard, which will just get messed up and fall flat. An extra tip, extra long thingy, but I think that's about it. And then over here I just have some extra gloves. That's about it for this bag. Let me know if there's anything I'm missing that I need to put in here. Thanks guys, have a good one.